Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. How's morale? We're happy to have you. How attractive is the Titans general manager job is a question that many people have asked themselves here in the last couple of weeks since the firing of Rand Carthon and it's not really a reorganization of power because Chad Brinker didn't get reorganized. He's still there. We're just trying to figure out who wants to work for the Titans at this point in time, and frankly, who wants to work for Chad Brinker. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to get in there. Lucas Jackson and me till 1 o'clock. You got the F&M Bank chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, where Lucas is greeted this morning by being told that his polls are mid today by Russell.
My polls?
Mid
Those
polls?
are Buck's polls.
Mid polls? How do you spell Sam?
The same Darnold that we've seen in years past is who we saw in that super wild card round game.
You didn't put an E on there. You spelled it S-A-N.
Russell's always evaluating
Sans
the
Darnold
polls.
Is what I would like to be. I would like to
Darnold.
be Sans Darnold. I'm all set on that.
Accountability is good. Russell always holds us accountable with the polls in the F&M Bank chat.
Thank you very much. Also, Tyler saying no Indiana gear today, Buck. No, I do not want to talk about that.
Do we make too much of one person having final say? Do we overcompensate because of how kind of murky it has been in the last couple of years? Like, my question is, and I suppose you probably can't answer this. You've never been in a war room during a draft or in
Why
these
do we call
meetings.
them war rooms?
I don't know. Do we call them war rooms in the NFL?
Who's going to war for the draft? Oh, sure they do.
On signing day,
nobody fetishizes war analogies like football people.
but maybe that's more of a national signing day college football thing. Anyway, you and I have never been in those rooms.
Either way.
You and I.
Let's go down to the bunker and pick some players.
You and I have never been in meetings preparing for free agency and determining players that they want to go after. But how often does it really happen that something comes down to a tiebreaker where Chad Brinker's on this side, ex-general manager that the Titans hire is on this side, and there has to be one person that says, nope, this is what we're doing, final answer? How often do you think that actually happens? Or do you think these setups are typically designed to end up reaching the same conclusion?
Are they hunting together?
Not anymore. Well, I mean, I can tell you because I've talked to people in draft rooms. I've never myself been in a draft room, to your point. But yeah, plenty of times that these things have to come down to who's got final say. Because you may have let's just take a general manager and an area scout. And the GM's got 1,000-foot view, right? You got a bunch of different players you got to know, but you're not going to get to everybody. It's really tough to scout everybody. For one, obviously you have reports prepared. You have a team. You have a staff of people who's responsible for getting you the most information, the most possible intel on these players, but you may not have everything as one individual person. So then it's incumbent upon your staff at the various levels as you trickle down from area scout, director of player personnel, director of college scouting, all these different things. If you got a guy that you love and you think he makes the most sense for your team, but your GM's like, I don't know, then it's incumbent upon you to stand on the table, as they say, even though I don't think people are necessarily standing on tables at this point. There are so many phrases that we use throughout common discourse that I just don't understand.
I want that to be true so bad.
That's just somebody just gets on a table.
I want that to be like a thing that you only pull out of your back pocket if you really care about a player. Like there's an intense discussion happening about a player during day one of the NFL draft.
All of a sudden get up and you got to
starts climbing. All right. Todd's getting up on the table. All right, let's hear him out. He's standing on the table.
Somebody in the chat Curtis in the chat just said the Titans are hunting like Dick Cheney.
Come on.
Did that man survive, or was it just, an unfortunate accident in the midst of quail hunting with the former vice president that you took a little stray shot to the side of the face?
The second one.
I shouldn't laugh, but it's true. So, I mean, yeah, it does come. It's not necessarily tiebreakers, like you're not the intermediary there. You're just the ultimate decision maker. So you can either buy what your staff is selling or be like, no, I disagree. We're going to go with this way because this is what I think is best. It happens all the time. Disagreement is good.
Of course.
Contrary to popular belief, Disagreement is a good thing. Constructive disagreement is essential to the draft process. So in free agency and scouting and the actual picking of the players when it comes down to those 3 nights in April, well, where they will finalize. Right now they have 8 picks. We'll see if they can get any more picks based on what happens with the number 1 overall pick. Yeah, it happens all the time.
I'm just curious, how often are Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch coming to verbal blows when it comes to who they want to take? And Shanahan, we know, has control over that roster.
Why are you making it verbal blows?
And it gets to the point where
disagreement does not have to be contentious just because you and I make it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. But I'm just curious. I mean, how often does John Lynch end up having to go, yes, sir, Mr. Shanahan? That's what we'll do, Mr. Shanahan.
I don't think that happens specifically. Also, if Kyle Shanahan
right away, Mr. Shanahan
was doing that to John Lynch, that relationship would probably not have been as fruitful as it has been.
But will Elliot Wolf have to do that to Mike Vrabel?
Yes, 100%. King Mike
yes, Mr. Vrabel.
King Mike Vrabel finally gets his to rule over his kingdom with an iron fist with Ryan Cowden as hand of the king. And meanwhile, it's really who's trying to jockey for position to be hand of the queen here in Tennessee, even though that's not necessarily a roster thing. That's just generally a construct of what they've set up thing.
But I feel like when we're preparing the show, for example, usually we end up in the same place, right? On the direction to go with a particular segment or when to put a particular segment. So I tend to think that probably happens in front offices when general managers hire people they have relationships with, people that maybe have the same values, philosophies as them when it comes to building a football team. So do you think we maybe overblow it, understanding it's important? And I'm glad we know who has final roster say, and that's Chad Brinker.
Yeah, just for our sake.
Right, but have we overcompensated in sort of blowing up the importance of that because we haven't had a final answer in the last couple of years?
No, because I want to know who to give credit for or who to blame when this thing goes whatever direction it's going to go. And I don't know what direction it's going to go. Like I said, they could get all this right. It could be a terrible process that leads them ultimately to beneficial results. And this could be much ado about nothing other than it was very, it's been a rocky road to get to whatever success that they might find at the end of this, or at least when the season gets underway and they will either be justified in believing that their vision of what this thing is supposed to be was right all along. It just took us a couple of extra bumps and bruises to get there. Or they'll look like fools and we'll treat them as such. And we'll talk about, well, why was this person ultimately in charge? The same question. I don't know. By the way, I don't know if this man Chad Brinker is ever going to give a press conference. I have no idea. I don't know if they're going to I assume that he will be there in attendance at the general manager announcement press conference. Amy Adams Strunk is typically there to give prepared statements, not necessarily to take questions. I don't know if Chad will take the same approach. And we'll, work through whatever construct they've created as best we can to try and get to the bottom of these things on a regular basis. Because at the end of the day, we're just trying to figure out who's most responsible for the team being where it currently is that is dissatisfactory to, first and foremost, the customer, and secondarily, to the person who owns the thing. And then, how are you going to fix it, and why should we trust you?
Next time we have an argument on the air, I'm going to stand on this table. Just see what it does.
You are in no way, shape, or form athletic enough to get up out of your seat, try and clamber onto this table.
Yes, I am.
No, there's no chance.
Yes, I am.
I believe in him.
No, I don't at all, because he'll forget that he's got his headphones on. He'll try to get up there. He'll get yanked back down and fall over.
Okay. This is how.
No. He took his headphones off because I've said.
I disagree with you, but.
People are just going to get a crotch shot of you on the Meg chat and just going to be staring at your pants that are way too tight. This is not safe for work, what we're doing on YouTube right now. Are you going to proclaim anything? You're just going to stand there.
I'm standing on the table.
Yeah, okay. He's proclaimed that he's standing on the table and blew out his knee on the way down. 615-737-1045
I see why people do that.
The number. What was that, empowering?
I felt very powerful.
You almost knocking your head into this giant guitar-shaped sound buffer thing that we have at the top of the studio? That would have been good. All right, coming up next, we didn't get to how attractive the Titans general manager job is, so we might as well start there. I'm Buck Rising. Also, Adam Sparks will join us. It's 104.5 The Zone. Will I have enough money when I retire? When should I start to draw from Social Security? If these questions keep you up at night, let me introduce you to a team that's there to keep you on the right track and to guide you through it. That's Trajan Wealth, Trajan Wealth. Trajan Wealth is not just any financial firm. They're your partners in securing your financial future. And they're more than just a fiduciary firm. They're a family-owned, veteran-led team that puts your needs first. Let their decades of experience specializing in retirement planning and wealth management work for you. Trajan Wealth offers free consultations to help you develop your plan and your peace of mind, which is, of course, the most important thing. So call them today at 615-270-5000. That's 615-270-5000, or visit them online at TrajanWealth.com. Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. This is a paid advertisement. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. We got a little breaking Vols news, courtesy of Chris Lowe of ESPN. Tim Banks in Tennessee finalizing an extension for him to remain as Vol football's defensive coordinator. Sources tell ESPN at CeeLo. ESPN, by the way, is where this comes from. Banks, a Broyles Award finalist, led one of the top defenses in college football last season, holding 11 of 13 opponents under 20 points. Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News-Sentinel joins us now. I think you're on vacation. What are you doing radio hits while you're on vacation?
I'm kind of in and out of vacation. I'm in Orlando. Wife's got a work conference, so I'm sort of working, sort of not. It just depends on the day. But today I'm working.
That's every day for us. Sort of working, sort of not.
Yeah, it's whether this is actual work or not is yet to be determined. But Adam Sparks is much more professional and has a better work ethic than the both of us. Tim Banks expected back. Yes, this is not any kind of cataclysmic event in your world.
No, I've expected him back for a while. There was some rumblings of Miami. I think more rumblings of Clemson. That looked like there was an opening with Penn State, but the Tim Banks thing, it's just that both sides had to sort of get over the fact that he was not signed to a long-term deal a year ago. I mean, Tim Banks loves Knoxville. Anytime we get him in a press conference setting, he would find ways to mention how much he likes Knoxville, how much his wife likes Knoxville, the restaurants he likes to eat at, the comfort of the city, everything about it. And so you always knew that if he could stay, he would. I think at times we thought the thing that would pull Tim Banks away is a head coaching opportunity. And he was in on the MTSU search a year ago when Derek Mason got it, and that didn't happen. By the way, he makes right now. Tim makes $500,000 more than Derek Mason, and Derek Mason is a head coach. So you could see the incentives for him to stay. So no, I'm not surprised. I mean, it's not done yet, but it's been close to done here for a few weeks.
So obviously the numbers are fantastic, right, from the defense throughout the course of the 2024 season, Adam. But when you kind of zoom in to the end, the backstretch there, Tennessee struggled to affect the quarterback in the Georgia and Ohio State game, obviously the two key losses late in the year. How do you kind of process the way the defense played, understanding that the standard was excellent throughout the course of the year, the depth they had on the defensive line? But I also wonder just what Tim Banks might be taking from how the season ended in terms of things to build on going into 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a fine line between a coach maybe finding his kryptonite, and maybe Tim Banks is that he couldn't defend Ohio State, couldn't defend Georgia, couldn't get the pass rush going in those games. There's a fine line between that and panicking over not doing those things. If Tennessee's defense does not play as well as it did this past year, this was an 8-4 team at best. It may have been a 7-5 team. I mean, they held 10 opponents, I think, under 20 points. I think you have to look at coaches and say, you've got B pluses and A minuses on your report card, but this subject over here, you've got to figure this one out. And I think Tim Banks has got some areas he has to figure out. I don't know. Anytime I talk to Tennessee fans that want Tim Banks gone, I always sort of think how good do you think the defense was supposed to be? The defense was very, very, very good for 90% of the season. I understand it's got to be better than that, but I think perspective is lost a little bit when people want Tim Banks to walk. This was one of the top 7 or 8 defenses in the country. There's room to grow, but there's not a ton of room. The difference you're talking about is a playoff team versus a get deeper into the playoffs. And I saw more problems on the offense in that regard than I did the defense.
The best scoring defense since the 1998 national championship season. But I guess I'm not shocked that you've gotten some of those responses after the way the season ended. But looking down at his defensive staff, Adam, he's not the only one whose contract was set to go up. Obviously, Mike Eckler outside linebackers coach, special teams coordinator, and Willie Martinez coaching defensive backs. Their contract up in a couple weeks here on January 31st. Do you expect those guys to be retained? And then just zooming out with how Heupel has handled his staff as a whole. I don't believe, Adam, he has fired a single coaching staff member since he was hired at Tennessee, right? I mean, how do you sort of process where Josh Heupel goes from here in terms of managing his staff when, similar to what you're saying about the defense, it's about the whole football team, right? From getting into the playoffs to getting deeper into the playoffs.
And I don't think that's just a Tennessee thing, right, Adam? I don't think he ever fired anybody at UCF.
Right, yeah. He's never fired a coach in his assistant coach in his head coaching career. He's only lost he's lost a couple guys to sort of lateral, I wouldn't even call them lateral moves. He's lost guys to the NFL. He's lost guys that took a better position at a comparable school. But he's never fired anybody. I think some of that, don't know that I want to psychoanalyze Josh Heupel, but I think some of that goes back to his experiences at Oklahoma. I mean, we've written before, we wrote the Oklahoma Week that, you know, he felt like he was let go too soon by Bob Stoops. You know, he felt he knew a way that he was a very good offensive coordinator. He had a little bit of a down year and he wanted a chance to fix it. And I think that's how he looks at assistants. I think if either an assistant is a good assistant or a bad assistant. I think sometimes he looks at it in the binary. And if you're a good assistant, you should be given the opportunity to fix whatever the problem was within a given year or whatever. And I think that's how he usually looks at his assistants. I think some head coaches look at assistants and find reasons to get rid of them. I think Josh Heupel usually looks at reasons to keep them. And so, you know, okay, Willie Martinez, a guy who, you know, the secondary struggled for the first couple years of Josh Heupel's tenure. Well, he has been one of their better recruiters. And then this past year, Jermod McCoy, he primarily coaches corners. Willie does. He had an All-American in Jermod McCoy. He had a very good other corner in Ricky Gibson. They retooled the whole secondary, and it was pretty good. He coaches Boo Carter, and Boo Carter was a SEC all-freshman team guy. So, you know, I think he can look at that and say, is Willie Martinez a problem, or it's ebbs and flows? And so I think Willie will come back. He's been on a one-year deal for the past couple years. I think the indication there is eventually he may retire, but I think he comes back. I think Tim Banks comes back. Mike Eckler, just the question with him is whether or not he wants to get back to Nebraska, where he's from, where he's coached before. And there's an opening there for a special teams coach at Nebraska, and there's a possibility he could go there. But if that doesn't happen, I think he comes back also.
Adam Sparks, Knoxville News Sentinel, here with us on 104.5 The Zone. KnoxNews.com is where you can read things like the transfer portal options that are available for Tennessee as that window gets closer and closer to closing. What can you tell us from a 1,000-foot view about where Tennessee stands and what still needs to happen?
Yeah, I saw you guys promoted me coming on with the tagline "Portal Updates," and I thought, well, there aren't any. They missed on Emmanuel Pregnon, was an all Big Ten lineman from USC that they tried desperately to get. Instead, he went to Oregon. A lot of guys are going to Oregon, and they've struck out on some guys. They've added two guys, a good offensive lineman and Amari Jefferson, the wideout from Alabama, an in-state guy. And that's about it. They may add somebody else, but of the top, I think it's 150 players in the portal. I think like two of them right now have not committed anywhere. And Tennessee's in on one of those guys a little bit, but not really. So there's a decent chance. I mean, the guys in the CFP championship game, those guys will have 5 days to jump in the portal, any of those. There's a possibility they could get somebody from one of those teams. But otherwise, I think they're close to done. I mean, school starts on the 21st. You could still add somebody a few days after that, but not many. I think the roster is pretty close to done. They may add like one more guy before spring practice, but Otherwise, I think this is one of those situations where they looked in the portal, they liked a few guys, they tried to get them, they didn't get a lot of the guys they wanted, and in some instances, I think they look at it and say the younger guys that they're bringing in as freshmen are as good as the options that they saw in the portal, and that may be cope a little bit, but you've got 2 4-star wide receivers on campus that you just brought in as early enrollees. When you look in the portal and you see 3-star transfer wide receivers or 4-star transfer wide receivers, are they better than the guys you're bringing in? That's, I don't know. I tend to think that they're looking at the guys they already have and think maybe those are as good of options as they could have gotten in the portal.
Which is fair, but is it enough, I guess, is going to be the question from Vols fans who are looking at it, and I think that's kind of where everybody's at, right?
Yeah, it's. I don't think what they have right now is good enough to be a playoff team. They still need to add pieces. They had enough questions leaving the season, and those questions have not been answered by what they've added. I mean, they don't have a lot of spots left. The roster's, I think, it's like 81 scholarships right now. They can add a few more, but you can't. They're just not going to go add a ton of guys. Honestly, I think they would have preferred maybe 3 or 4 guys that had underperformed or underdeveloped would have gone into the portal, and they would have a little more room. But then again, you get back to the point where did they like their options in the portal? I do think it's fair to say that Tennessee was a little slow in acting in the portal. I think maybe one thing they'll coach themselves on for next year if this happens is that if you get into the playoff, you've got to still work as hard in the portal during playoff prep as you would if you were just playing in some run-of-the-mill bowl game. Because I don't think they were way behind, but I think they were half a step behind, and other teams were more aggressive about getting guys on campus.
Well, so I suppose the only way for the Vols to continue to push forward with the goal of ascending in that playoff discussion of playing more than one game in it isn't going to be about elevating their talent profile to the level of an Ohio State, right, Adam? Feels like that ship has probably sailed for this team, but maybe instead trying to use the offense as that giant difference maker that it was in 2022, sort of balancing out that talent differential, and Nico Iamaleava would have to take a massive step forward to do that. As you take a step back and the dust settles on 2024, how do you evaluate Nico's first season as a starter, and how do you think expectations are going to be measured for him going into year 2 as a starter?
He got better late in the year. I think we saw deficiencies with him, a gap between his talent versus his processing. I mean, he turned into a 5-star going into, I think it was his junior year of high school. He had played quarterback, but he had not played it. He had not played it for long. Like for example, I think George McIntyre's played quarterback more than Nico has. I think Faison Brandon, who they'll bring in next year, had played a lot more. Nico was in a couple of different high schools. I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but I do think the talent was there, the processing and the understanding of the offense and the experience wasn't quite there. He'll be better next year. He was so this year. You saw glimpses of what you wanted to see. The thing is, though, I think the biggest improvement, the biggest upgrade in this team from this past season to next season has got to be Josh Heupel or Joey Halsley or whoever sitting in a film room and figuring out how to tweak the offense. Because, I mean, you're not going to get Hendon Hooker back again, but one thing that Hendon Hooker did have is that receivers were open down the field more. And the offense produced those open receivers, and I don't think Nico had as many opportunities as that. They need to upgrade the offense and the scheme, I think, as much as they need to upgrade talent.
He's Adam Sparks. No matter whether he's half on or half off vacation today, off, but today, I guess. Yeah, he's off vacation today because he's working and allowing us to bother him during his trip to Orlando. Buddy, we appreciate the insights and the analysis as always. KnoxNews.com is where you can read them.
All right, guys. Y'all have a good one.
That is Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News Sentinel there with us on 104.5 The Zone. Don't feel good about your portal situation.
I mean, look, you ended the season with that blowout loss to Ohio State saying, okay, there's the gap, right? Tennessee has gotten back to a place where they are relevant. Now, the harder thing to do is get to a place where you are elite in that echelon of Ohio State and in Texas and even Georgia from a talent profile perspective. Now, you see Notre Dame going all the way to the national championship, playing elite defense, elite special teams, with a great run game, and a quarterback in Riley Leonard that's tough and can get tough yards and can make plays, but certainly isn't in the upper tier of quarterbacks in college football, right? Notre Dame doesn't have the talent profile, even close to an Ohio State on paper. So it's not like you just can't win unless you have Jeremiah Smith, but it helps to have the Jeremiah Smiths of the world and to have the most talented roster in college football. Tennessee doesn't seem necessarily close to that in 2025. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see now as you settle deeper into the Heupel era, the retaining and developing of players that they recruit. On the offensive line, Tennessee has yet to have a significant starting contributor on the offensive line that was recruited and developed by Heupel and his staff. All of them. Either Pruitt recruits like Cooper Mays, Darnell Wright, or transfer acquisitions like Lance Hurd. Now, David Sanders Jr. has the opportunity to be that first one, the 5-star tackle who's expected to be a day one starter. So a lot of questions going into spring practice, and it seems like the only route for Tennessee to truly take that leap forward deeper into the playoff is for Nico to take a big leap and for some receivers to step up, Mike Matthews to be a star, and the defense to kind of maintain the standard it set this year.
There is a little bit of breaking. Well, I don't know if this is the breaking news that you had, but there is some breaking SEC quarterback news. Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers is officially declaring for the NFL draft. He would be the number 3 quarterback available by most people's analysis. I think if you would, I'm sure you could find some people that may have him stacked above or below the Jackson Darts, the Kyle McCords of the world, but that is currently being reported by Pete Thamel of ESPN.
Arch Manning, come on down.
I'd just be curious, some questions that I would have about that at the onset. Did Steve Sarkisian have a conversation with Quinn Ewers about, we're thinking about at least having an open competition if you were to come back with you and Arch, because Ewers was fine. I mean, they got him to the college football playoff. He had some moments that you could point to and say, yeah, that guy helped get them to the place that they were at, but he never really took off in the way that I think a lot of people, it's kind of like the Carson Beck conversation. Yep. There are mitigating circumstances. It's why you don't declare somebody to be the number 1 overall draft pick before a college football season plays itself out, because there's all kinds of things that can happen, and new information becomes available that should allow you to continue to adapt your analysis on those players. And Quinn Ewers, not the same situation as Carson Beck, but kind of a similar outcome as Carson Beck, which is, wasn't the best. Not going to put you in the first round. But the difference being, Carson Beck took a bag to go to Miami, which, by the way, the price that Miami paid for Carson Beck is kind of crazy.
So reported $4 million for 1 year.
Nuts.
Yeah.
That's Nico was getting 8 reportedly over
for his entire Tennessee career.
3 or 4, depending on how long he ends up staying.
I mean, what was Will Levis's salary his first 2 years?
Not that.
Not $4 million, right? I mean, it's crazy.
So, yeah, that's just where things are headed in the world of college football. But yeah, Quinn Ewers will declare. Then you have Combine, Pro Day, all the visits. You get the point. That's kind of where things are headed for the now former Texas quarterback. And yeah, to your point, Arch Manning, come on down. Any reason to believe that Arch Manning, again, very, very premature conversations. And I almost hate to do it because it's what I've just cautioned against. But people seem to think that Arch Manning would not necessarily come out in 26.
Well, it was just kind of up in the air. I don't think anybody thought he'd be back at Texas. But it was either hit the portal or go to the draft. Beck hits the portal after declaring for the draft. And Quinn Ewers goes ahead and declares for the draft. So now he enters that discussion of which quarterback is going to be that sneaky mover up to the top 15. Like a Bo Nix. Which quarterback's going to be drafted much higher than the conversations that were being had about him in January, like right now. Quinn Ewers could easily be that guy. Availability is going to be a big question for him.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. F&M Bank Chat also at your disposal. They seem to be, the YouTube audience seems less interested in what we're talking about versus other less important things at this point in time. But if you want to interact in the F&M Bank chat, it is available to you. So yes, Quinn Ewers declares he ends his Texas quarterback career 21-5 as a starter, and including those 2 college football playoff appearances. So certainly not a bad resume as a college player. Now it's about what comes next. What comes next for us is SEC observations. Are we doing basketball?
We're going to the hardwood.
Excellent. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
Let's talk about life in the SEC with the current state of SEC basketball as we watch Auburn take care of business against Mississippi State. Number 1 Auburn yesterday at home. Ron Slay on the call. The Tigers getting it done against the number 15 Bulldogs, but there were other top 5 SEC teams that did not get it done. 2 went down yesterday.
You're just going to gloss over Ron Slay's work in that Auburn-Miss State game?
Oh, he's fantastic.
Him
He's always
interviewing
fantastic.
the person in the coconut bra that was continuing to shake said coconut bra behind Ron Slay's head for the duration of that basketball game. Real journalism.
It
being
seems
done.
like the perfect fit for Slay to have that happening behind him in a game.
Auburn looks like a cool place to see a basketball game, by the way. Not just because they're the number 1 team in the country, and obviously Bruce Pearl's had them operating at a high level for a while now, but like it looks like a legit fun environment.
Yeah, Neville Arena is very small. It's very intimate, right? Think Cameron Indoor without any of the history or tradition. But it is a good environment, I will say that. And they dominated yesterday without Janai Broome, who I think might be the best player in the country. And he's currently out injured with an ankle injury. So, yeah, Auburn has looked impressive all year long. They are deservedly the number 1 team in the country right now. But
how nice it must be to have a raucous, rowdy college basketball environment instead of people chanting and leaving at halftime to fire the coach.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like to lose to Illinois in the college basketball season.
Not only to lose to Illinois
25
behind or at home, but to lose back-to-back games by 25 points to a middling Iowa team and then to turn around and lose at home by 25 to Illinois.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not having a good time.
How many times has Indiana basketball just been run off the court this season? What is going on?
Okay. It's the only thing that I care about.
Something is deeply wrong with your basketball team.
It's Mike Woodson, and I wanted him fired at halftime. I was rage tweeting through it last night. I've never in my life looked up an athletic director's Twitter handle to try and find it so that I could send him nasty messages about do your job, get off your ass and fire this person who's ruining the only thing in my life that I actually invest in. I don't want to do it. Give me your SEC observations.
Yeah.
Let's just move on. I'm so upset. I'm so upset.
Man, their basketball team is
Indiana
terrible.
collective name.
Oh, like Spire Sports?
Yeah.
It's like the Hoosier Club or something like that.
Need some
They keep
donations
asking
to
me
get
for
some-
money. I know. I will
Need to
give them
invest.
money. I will give them money to pay Mike Woodson's buyout. Get out.
My goodness.
Move on.
What is his buyout? Do you know?
It's not that much. He's got. I'll look it up. Continue with your
Anyway,
observations.
I don't care that much.
Okay.
So 2 top 5 SEC teams go down yesterday. You had Florida after they routed Tennessee last week, losing to Missouri at home. And you had Bama going down yesterday as well. The Tide lost to Ole Miss on their home floor, 74-64. But this is going to be life in the SEC this year, man. An unranked Missouri team coming to Gainesville and knocking off Florida on their home court a week after Florida destroyed the number 1 team in the country in Tennessee. A number 21 Ole Miss team beating a top 5 Bama team on the road. I mean, this is going to happen week in and week out. What are you making a face at?
$8.4 million to fire him?
No, pocket change.
Yes.
Pocket change for Indiana.
No, I mean, it is. Yeah, Cuban's got it. Let's go, Mark.
Yeah.
Come on.
He's got it in the
Joe
couch.
Buck's got it. Let's go.
Before we get to Tennessee, who plays a pesky Georgia team tonight. Georgia's crawled into the top 25. They have some quality wins. They're playing good basketball under Mike White. John Calipari is 0-4 in SEC play for the first time in his coaching career. Never did that at Kentucky. And, I mean, we're used to this from John Calipari coach teams, the slow starts, and he's doing it now operating with a less talented team at Arkansas than he had at Kentucky. But, look, man, 11-6, 0-4 start in conference play. It's setting up for them to need quite a turnaround to be a tournament team in a couple months.
Vibe's also excellent at Kentucky under Mark Pope.
Yeah.
And that is not something that I am terribly happy about because I prey on Kentucky basketball's downfall on a regular basis. It's the one thing. I mean, there are several things that me and Tennessee fans share on a regular basis. But to see Mark Pope succeeding at that rate, to see them winning quality games, to see them doing it now in conference play as well is very, very disappointing to me because I pointed and laughed at them when they got turned down by UConn's coach and instead not settled, but hired Mark Pope, even though it felt like settling, and I enjoyed that very much, and now I'm not enjoying it because Indiana and Kentucky have a home and home in their very near future.
Well, their fan base had a complete and utter meltdown when they hired Mark Pope. But you're right. I mean, the atmosphere at Rupp Arena lately, it feels like it has just a different edge to it than it did in some of the latter Coach Cal years. Tyler has called in to talk about Kentucky basketball.
Hey, what's up, y'all?
What you got?
I was gonna say, I got like two things to say. Buck, Indiana sucks, and I'm so happy that they do.
They're the worst.
Yeah, they're awful. They're awful. They're like the Titans of college basketball.
I feel like I feel like I'm subjecting myself. I got out of football season, and now I'm doing it to myself again willingly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. I'm sorry about that, bud.
I don't think you are. I think that's a lie.
Yeah, it is. It was complete sarcasm. Second thing is, I love Mark Pope, and I love the job he's doing, and I think that we're going to be a great team. And I don't know if we're going to keep getting the quality amount of wins that we're getting, but this is fucking awesome. I didn't think.
No, Tyler, no.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, it is, but no.
You should have just said it's awesome. Oh man!
I
that
believe
one
it.
snuck up on me. That one I did not anticipate.
It was a pretty under the, like, he didn't say it with his chest like the last person to drop an F-bomb on the air.
Yeah, there's some people you're just sitting there and you're like, oh, it's coming, isn't it? But not with Tyler. That one just came out of nowhere.
He tried to sneak it by us.
All right, so the vibes are good.
See,
in Lexington.
never trust a Kentucky fan.
That's the show motto. My goodness. So Tennessee hosting Georgia tonight.
You wanted to take the call.
Vols are back home after going 1-1 on the road last week, facing a ranked Georgia team at Food City Center at Thompson Bowling Arena. Chaz Lanier is due to pop on the score sheet. He has had 20 points combined in the last two games.
Is he going to do what he's paid to do?
Hey, what'd you think about that quote from Rick Barnes?
Oh, I thought people made it. Well, listen, so two thoughts, okay? Did you have the exact quote in front of you? That would be helpful if we could read from the exact quote. Because to read it in print sounds much differently than to hear it come out of Rick Barnes' mouth. Okay? That's the first thing that I want to say. Because I did see it, and I was like, oh, that's a bit of a shot. That's a little bit of a shot across one of your players' bows there. But when you hear him say it in the press conference setting, he's smiling and laughing about it. Can you read the exact quote?
So why don't we just listen to Rick Barnes talking about Chaz Lanier? This is after Tennessee's win at Texas last Saturday.
I took him out first play of the second half because he didn't shoot the ball. I mean, that play was designed for that shot. And I told him, I said, if you're not going to do what you're getting paid to do, you sit over here because he is getting paid to do that.
Yeah, he's laughing.
Yeah, he had a cheeky grin.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any bad blood there. Some tough love from Rick Barnes, which he is one to do.
Oh, by the way, that's what it is now.
Yeah,
they are paid. That's why I'm so damn mad at my basketball team, because they basically put together Ohio State's roster and it sucks. Or at least what Ohio State's roster costs.
So we'll see if Chaz Lanier shoots the ball tonight. By the way, you can hear the Vol Network call right here on 104.5 The Zone. That's a 7 p.m. tip-off.
Is Bob Kessling finishing out basketball season? Okay, because I know Bob and I'm sorry, I keep distracting you in the middle of your observations.
Nope.
Bob and Mike Keith did Vol Calls together.
They did.
Which was so cool to see.
You heard them play the audio from the first ever episode of Vol Calls?
Yeah, they was making the round. I didn't hear it live, but it was making the rounds on social media, and then also like the pictures from the first time that they did Vol Calls together to now, and Tennessee Athletics quoting it, saying, look how fast they grow up, which is just, it's great. Mike Keith's going to turn me into a Vols fan. Because God knows I don't want my basketball team anymore.
Yeah, you're too far gone. You wear more Vols gear to the show day to day than even Jackson or myself.
Yeah, because they're good, and I like things that are good.
Tennessee tonight against Georgia. I'm starting to worry just a little bit. I'm starting to worry about the depth for Tennessee right now, because we're getting into this a lot where you're going into games saying Tennessee's got 8 scholarship players today, right? Like Tennessee's not really playing more than 8 players on any given night. So I think production off the bench could be a concern. If you lose one more guy due to injury, it's a major concern. You're already kind of on thin ice. And Tennessee went into the season feeling good about where they were at. And then you lose one big man due to injury. Cam Carr kind of, is banged up and then just hits the portal and leaves the team midseason. And now you're kind of hamstrung if Darlin Stone Dubar's not giving you something off the bench, which he did against Texas, 12.6 boards, the Hofstra transfer. Tennessee's got to continue to get something from him, because if they do, then all is well and they'll continue plugging along. They're setting their identity. But it's also interesting because that's been a criticism of Rick Barnes in recent years, the too many cooks in the kitchen type of thing, where Tennessee was almost too deep. So they have settled into a very consistent lineup, but I don't know. It's a little precarious, so I'm just kind of keeping an eye on it. But they will look for another home win tonight against Georgia.
Tennessee still the 5th-ranked team in terms of KenPom.
Oh, KenPom. Okay, yeah.
Thank you for letting me finish my sentence. 615-737-1045. Auburn is the only team ranked above Tennessee in KenPom, with the number 1 overall rating at this point in time. Offensive rating, defensive rating. Tennessee is a good basketball team. Auburn is the best basketball team right now. How about Christy up next?
Hey, Buck.
How are you?
What's up? I am doing great. I was just calling to tell you to chill out. There's one more month until March Madness. They could turn this thing around and be better. I'm a Vanderbilt fan during college football season, so you just chill out. It'll be okay.
Christy, they're not going to be participating in March Madness if they keep losing to teams by 25, but I do appreciate your calming words. Thank you.
Okay.
Resign.
I do appreciate that some of you are legitimately concerned about me. And yeah, I'm a bandwagon fan because my team sucks and I want some sports joy in my life. 615-737-1045 is the number. We got things to give away?
We do. Give us the dumbest thing in sports this week at 615-737-1045. 4-day tickets to Bonnaroo and a camping pass for you and a friend.
Ooh.
Bonnaroo returning to the farm this June as artists like Olivia Rodrigo, Luke Combs, Tyler the Creator, Avril Lavigne, Glass Animals, and more. And you can win those coming up next.
If you give us the dumbest thing in sports this week, we'll give you 2 4-day passes and a parking pass, a camping pass to this summer's Bonnaroo. 615-737-1045. The dumbest thing in sports this week is next.
11:02, good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Titans GM search continues. 6 candidates called back for second interviews. They are Mike Borgonzi of the Chiefs, John Eric Sullivan of the Packers, John Spytek of the Bucks, Terrence Gray of the Bills, Ed Dodds of the Colts, and Ian Cunningham of the Chicago Bears. The Nashville Predators beat the Vegas Golden Knights on Tuesday, 5-3, the final for the 1,000th win in franchise history. Steven Stamkos with a pair of goals and an assist. The Preds are trying to dig out of second to last in the Central as the homestand continues tomorrow against last place Chicago. The Tennessee Vols are finalizing a deal for Tim Banks to remain the defensive coordinator, according to a report by Chris Lowe of ESPN. Banks led a unit that ranked top 10 in the country in total defense and scoring defense in 2024. And another quarterback has declared for the NFL draft. Texas QB Quinn Ewers made it official today. He ends his college career going 21-5 as a starter in the last 2 seasons. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
It most certainly is, and it provides you the opportunity to win 2 4-day passes and a camping pass to this summer's Bonnaroo. Jackson, some of the artists, just give me 3 or 4. Who's performing at this year's Bonnaroo event? Maybe you just want to go to Bonnaroo anyway, because Bonnaroo's a good time. But who else do they have on tap that people may be interested in calling in to try to win these tickets?
Olivia Rodrigo, Tyler, the Creator, Hoser, and Luke Combs.
Pretty good.
Hoser, huh?
Hosier.
Hosier?
Hosier.
Do you like that Hoser?
Hoser.
Careful.
Ooh, should I go back to the Canadian accent thing I used to do?
No. Why? Since when do you do a Canadian accent?
You not remember that when Buster Screen was on the run from the Mounties, eh?
Wow, that was a lifetime ago.
That was so long ago.
Titans legend. Yeah, brother, I don't remember what we did on the show yesterday. Much.
You don't remember Buster Screen, eh?
A very, very niche bit that we did.
It's niche.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's not as bad as what he did with Chamber.
Well, see, none of us are capable of doing this. It's clear.
I think that's just fine. Either way, 615
we fail upwards.
737-1045. It is true. We do tend to fail upwards in spectacular ways. The dumbest thing in sports this week is something that was submitted yesterday, but something that is worth bringing back up because it is behavior that I said that I would like to see Titans fans replicate in some form or fashion without realizing the extremes that Philadelphia fans can take things to. There was a Philadelphia Eagles fan this weekend at the Packers-Eagles wild card weekend game that was just completely unprovoked, uncalled for, chirping, not just chirping, but berating these 2 Packers fans that were sitting in front of him, and to the extent that it is completely unacceptable. It's fine to have some banter, right? Nothing wrong with a little friendly banter in a situation where you got opposing fans coming in. But Philadelphia does not do friendly banter. Philly just takes things to 10 at all times, and this person was yelling at this poor woman sitting in front of him, was not even paying attention to the game, locked on her specifically, called her an ugly, dumb, see you next Tuesday, and continued to do so while another person was getting it on camera. That person has since been fired from his job in Philadelphia, to which I say, good. There should be repercussions for that kind of behavior. It is disgraceful. It is unacceptable. I retract my statement about wanting Titans fans to behave more like Eagles fans when Eagles fans are capable of doing things like that.
Yeah, that was our winner for what made you say, oh no, in sports yesterday.
And it's just one, listen, I mean, it is one guy, so let's not make it about the entire Philadelphia fan base, but Philly does tend to have a few more of those than your average fan base does.
I'll make mine quick. We already talked about it. It is the FanDuel fake imaginary graphic trade proposal of the Cowboys sending Dak Prescott to Tennessee, and only Dak Prescott to Tennessee, in exchange for the 2025 number 1 overall pick, the 2025 4th round pick, and the 2026 3rd round pick of the Titans. Dak, an aging quarterback coming off an injury with a massive contract.
Whose numbers basically look the same as Ryan Tannehill's. If you hold them up in a statistical comparison.
Come on. I don't think so.
You should go look. You would be surprised. Pro Football Reference does these two. You can do side-by-side statistical comparisons. It's going to shock you.
Dak Prescott has had 3 4,000-yard passing seasons. Has Tannehill had one?
Tannehill has not, because the Titans have never had a fourth. Well, I don't know about the Dolphins.
Definitely not with the Titans. I don't know about with the Dolphins.
But again, if you look at some of the metrics for Ryan Tannehill and Dak Prescott, they are eerily similar.
Anyway, FanDuel Sportsbook, you get why they did it. I get it. It's content. Doesn't mean we can't call it dumb.
It is dumb. Jackson?
I feel like I've done this before, but it happened again with NBA fans doing mean things to children. Our NBA teams. So there was
famously I hate children, so.
That's fair. So you're probably not going to like this one.
Buck was in alignment with the Hornets when they gave a kid a PlayStation and then took it away from him after they turned the cameras off.
That's not true. Just because I threw a PlayStation 4 away because I was done with it doesn't mean I was for the...
You weren't done with it. You were just playing it too much.
You threw it away so that a child could not enjoy it. That's why you threw it away.
I threw it away because it was a time suck during COVID.
Jackson?
So at the Warriors-Raptors game, so there was a kid picked to do like a half court or a game during one of the timeouts, and he was wearing a Steph Curry jersey. And rather than, maybe pulling the kid to the side and saying, hey, buddy, like, here's a Raptors shirt to put on for this, they made him do it in front of everybody. At like on like the Jumbotron, he was on the TV broadcast having to change out of his Steph Curry jersey. I just thought it was pretty dumb.
Pretty dumb. I agree. 615-737-1045. The number, let's start with Austin.
Hey, guys. See, I had a plan. The Eagles story was kind of mine, and then I was scrambling because then you already mentioned it.
You're wasting time. Give me your plan B. I don't care about plan A.
Go ahead. All right, bye.
Oh, sorry, Austin.
Wait, he just wanted to say that it was his plan A. Okay, tough scene. How about Ben? Going once, Ben. All right, excellent work by Ben. Caller's off to a hot... This is why we can't give you all nice things. What is wrong with you guys?
Just go to the next one.
It's just unbelievable.
I want to go 0 for 7 here with every line. Go ahead.
Corey is next.
I'm definitely here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Mine is for Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. When they did their touchdown celebration, Cooper DeJean was supposed to sell that pedigree, and he did a terrible job of it, and that is my dumbest thing in sports. If you're going to practice a wrestling move as a touchdown celebration, at least do it right.
The Triple H celebration, is that what he did? Yeah.
So they botched it. Oh, look at Slay interviewing the coconut bra.
I also wish they would have put Slay in a coconut bra there.
To look up at our TV in the studio and see Rod Slay on SEC Network interviewing a crazed, screaming man in a coconut bra.
Excellent.
Is why I love this job.
Truly. It's always fun to see your friends on TV. Like, did he just tap the coconut bras? Look at Slay copping a feel. Get out of there. Get out of it. But it's a man, by the way. I feel like it's probably important to say that. All right. So a botched Triple H celebration is currently the first submission. Tim is next.
Well, my dumbest thing this week in sports is Dion Sanders even thinking he's qualified or can succeed at coaching Dallas Cowboys, let alone an NFL team. I'm reminded by Rick Pitino, and I have no love for him as a coach or the University of Kentucky, after he failed miserably going to coach the Celtics. After years of success at Kentucky, he was asked by a reporter what happened. And while I don't like Pitino, he said, it's easy to take young players and get them to play like NBA stars, but tough to get NBA stars to quit acting like little kids.
Those two jobs are very different, though. Like, you don't have to be some schematic whiz to be an NFL head coach.
But it's very...
Not that Deion Sanders doesn't know football. I mean, I don't know. Why is Deion Sanders unqualified?
Well, it's hard to gauge. It's hard to gauge because who comes to mind when you think of the most successful college coach who was the biggest failure as an NFL head coach?
Saban.
Urban, but yes. I mean, Saban's up there.
Oh,
right?
yeah, Urban, yeah.
Right.
I don't even think of Urban as an NFL head coach.
No, that's
he
how
didn't
bad
make
it was.
it through a
Yeah.
season.
I mean, Saban would probably be your answer if not for Urban. So now, why were Nick Saban and Urban Meyer so dominant as college football head coaches? Talent acquisition.
Get to pick the players, no salary cap.
Now, Nick Saban, master strategist, leader, culture, all those things, but talent acquisition. That's why Kirby Smart is such a good head coach. The best head coaches in college football are the best at getting the best players. It's that simple. So oftentimes you'll see these college football head coaches getting NFL jobs, and it doesn't go as well because you don't have that type of luxury, which is why I think a Marcus Freeman interview with the Bears is very interesting. Notre Dame's not the most talented team in the country, yet here they are in the national championship game. Jim Harbaugh, Michigan was not the most talented team in the country. They won the national championship. He obviously is a good NFL head coach. I don't know where Dion kind of falls in that. How much of Colorado being good is because of talent acquisition, which is a credit to Dion, and it has to do with his son and his relationship with Travis Hunter, who was the number one player in the country coming out of high school, getting him to go to an HBCU, versus the other intangibles that make a good head coach. I don't know, but it's worth conversation.
It's easier at the pro level than it is. I mean, every job comes with some level of stressors, but it's infinitely easier. It's less of a time suck in the pros than it is at college. It's certainly a better quality of life. If Dion can do it at college, I certainly think that he would be, doesn't make him unqualified.
I'll be surprised if Dion Sanders is an NFL head coach in 2025.
Yeah, I probably would be too, but I think there's a million different reasons why it would make sense for him to at least consider it.
Oh, doesn't mean it won't happen eventually.
Sure. Let's see. How about Brian?
Hey, am I on?
Yes.
Okay, good deal. So my dumbest thing in sports is the Browns sued by Cleveland over their proposed stadium to move to the suburbs. I don't know if you read that article on ESPN or not, but that's just, as a Titans fan, that gets way worse than what we're having to deal with, dealing with the QB situation and all that over there in Cleveland. But I just wanted to shut that out. Thanks, Buck. Have a good one, buddy.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. So I have not read the ESPN article that he's mentioning, but it sounds like it's a similar situation to the Bears where they were considering moving it from its current location to the burbs for, I assume, financial reasons. I don't have all the details on that, but let's continue to take submissions because I think you guys can do better. If I'm being honest, I think you guys can do a little better, and it's a really good prize, and I want to give it to somebody who earned it.
Stew on it over the break and see what we can get on the other side.
615-737-1045 is the number. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. The Tennessee Men's Clinic has helped guys for over a decade here in Middle Tennessee, and they can help you too if ED is something that you're currently dealing with. They're there to clear up any misconceptions that you might have about ED treatment because sometimes the pills stop working, and you want to consider all of your options, certainly before you go through something like irreversible surgery, which, by the way, may be the only treatment protocols that are available to you if you go to a doctor, for example. Do not get irreversible surgery for ED treatment before you've talked to the experts at the Tennessee Men's Clinic because they specialize in men's sexual health issues. It's all they do. It makes them the experts in the field, and they have access to multiple protocols and options to treat your ED based on your specific needs and what's going on in your body. So don't trust your health to an online pharmacy and don't feel like you're out of options. We want you to understand all of the options available for you when it comes to ED treatment. The bottom line is no one has more expertise and experience in successfully treating men's sexual health issues than Tennessee Men's Clinic. And you can schedule an appointment online today at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com for their Franklin or Midtown location or call them 615-208-9090. All right, listen to me. If we're going to give you as good a prize, we have done a partnership as a show with Bonnaroo to give you guys the opportunity to go to Bonnaroo throughout the course of the winter into spring before the summer when Bonnaroo takes place. If we are going to do cool things like this for you guys, your submissions need to be better.
If you want to go see for yourself,
I'm threatening you.
that Avril Lavigne is alive and well and performing.
We never really got into that.
Did you ever look that up?
I will do it on the air if the submissions continue to suck.
Please do, because it is a real conspiracy.
But we need better ones for the dumbest thing in sports this week. If we are going to give you, if Bonnaroo through us is going to give you it's all 4 days, these passes, 2 4-day passes, and a parking pass to this summer's Bonnaroo event, which includes such acts as Jackson,
Olivia Rodrigo, Luke Combs, Tyler the Creator. Good job by me.
Hoser? Was it?
Hoser, eh?
God. Ton of great acts.
We are so bad at this.
Yeah.
Okay. 615-737-1045.
Vampire Weekend. Be a good time.
I saw Glass Animals. I guess that would have been last summer. They're also playing. They're an excellent live show. I would be all for that. I mean, assuming Slade does not have a wedding again that he tells us about 2 weeks before, we are planning to go to Bonnaroo. Lucas looked at the lineup and said it was mid. I thought that was very disrespectful to many of these acts.
It was. I dismissed it too quickly. It's just I didn't see one. Every time I look at a Bonnaroo lineup that comes out, I want there to be one big, bold act that I'm like, oh my God, I have to go see that. And there were none of those. But the more I look at the lineup, the more I'm like, oh, I'd have a great time at this show. I'd have a great time at this show.
Somebody said Tyler Combs sounds like a terrible concert.
Little Tyler the Creator, Luke Combs mashup.
I think it could be good.
You don't know. 615-737-1045, the number for the opportunity to win said tickets. How about Henry?
Hey, Buck. Hey, Lucas. My dumbest thing in sports is Deontay Johnson's attitude. He was cut by the Texans yesterday as they're going into Kansas City. He's been cut off 4 teams already this year. Think of the millions of dollars that he is throwing away right now.
Yeah, it's a pretty dumb one. It's the leader of the clubhouse.
It's the craziest way to go about this.
He's literally on a playoff team. Now, maybe you're going to Kansas City and maybe you don't make the Super Bowl with the Houston Texans this year or whatever, but this is the 4th team he's been on in a football. It's the football calendar year, which the new league year starts in March. It's not a calendar year. Obviously, if he gets on another team. Why teams continue to sign this guy when Devondre Campbell is the scourge of the league, and this guy clearly has a worse attitude.
What offense, as just a skill player in general, would you like to play on more than the Baltimore Ravens, right? Yeah. They're the funnest, most explosive offense in the NFL right now, and he didn't seem to want to show up to work. So, yeah, it's a bizarre situation to say the least.
Pretty bad. How about Daniel?
Hey, Buck. So I actually found a new bit of respect for you and your fandom that is totally chaotic. Totally crazy that the biggest sports podcast in the world is under false pretenses. Turns out Big Cat is from Newton, Massachusetts, and grew up winning in that first iteration of the Patriots as a Patriots fan, and totally implied that he was from Chicago this whole time. And I feel like the rug has been pulled underneath me because I've been listening since like the very beginning. And now I can't even look at the guy. I can't even, it's insane. It's like, how could you like pretend to be like, he cried when the Chicago Cubs won the World Series and he moved there when he was 22. Like it's insane. Like I can't even fathom how he like wakes up every day knowing that he's been totally lying to millions and millions of people this entire time. So yeah, in regards to you, Buck, you never tried to hide any of that, which is why I tip my cap off to you.
Thank you for the call, Daniel. So Big Cat, for the audience who may not be familiar, is Dan Katz. He's one of the primary personalities of Barstool Sports. They host a very popular podcast, one of the most popular sports podcasts, pardon my take, for a long, long time. And Dan Katz has always been the Chicago guy. They literally have built out a branch of Barstool in Chicago for him. And there are pictures on the internet of him in a Patriots jersey.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it went that far.
That are being circulated. And I didn't know what age that he moved to Chicago. 22 is pretty late in life to be crying over a Chicago Cubs World Series win, which would have been, was I out of college when the Cubs won the World Series? I would have had to have been fresh out.
That was 2016?
Yeah, so that would have been my first year out of college.
I was in the middle of college.
Yeah, so that's kind of so he may have been in his like late 20s, early 30s when that happened. It's a tough sell, especially when you're the Chicago guy. The wool pulled from or the scales pulled from people's eyes on Dan Katz, Chicago guy, when really he's a lousy Boston sports fan. Shameful. 615-737-1045. The number. Doug, next.
Hey, how you doing, Buck?
Good.
My dumbest thing is these running backs and wide receivers that run around with their mouth guards hanging off their face mask instead of being in their mouth.
It's reasonable. It's like the people that wear the knee pads, but they wear them like on their pants don't even go to their knees.
What's it for?
Yeah, it's a very confusing situation, Doug. I would agree with that situation. How about Richard?
Yeah, I'm going with Jerry Jones. No, nothing new, of course. It's just Jerry Jones being Jerry Jones, going on this coaching search rogue, naming, he wants a name coach, a celebrity coach, instead of somebody that can actually come coach the Cowboys.
Thanks for the call, Richard. I mean, Jerry doing what Jerry does. Some people, I'm sure, consider Jerry Jones to be dumb. What Jerry is not is marketing dumb. This is all good for the business of the Cowboys, even if it doesn't end up being good for the coaching search of the Cowboys.
But I don't think he makes moves just for the marketing aspect, right? I think he makes moves and hires to win games and win Super Bowls with the goal of winning games in Super Bowls.
I think he does these things kind of one mind.
I mean, is there a head coaching hire or move in particular that you look at as maybe bringing back Zeke? I don't know. I mean, who's beloved, obviously, by Cowboys fans, I guess.
Do anything, right?
But I don't know. I've never seen, in terms of his coaching hires, I've never thought Jerry Jones is making a hire because it's the one that's going to get the most clicks or whatever.
Well, yeah, because Jerry likes to be the guy. And it would be difficult for Jerry to have a personality as the coach bigger than Jerry Jones.
Well, they're interviewing Robert Saleh,
who is not a bigger personality than Jerry Jones. All right, Mike is our last submission. Let's see if Mike can put us over the top. What do you got?
Hey, guys. I got Deshaun Watson re-injuring his Achilles tendon during rehab of his Achilles tendon.
I appreciate the call, Mike. Now, the circumstances around Deshaun Watson's injury are
nebulous.
Well, it's pretty. There's some speculation out there, okay, about Deshaun Watson and how he re-injured himself. Again, it's another Achilles tear, and that players are shocked to find out. This is according to the reporting of The Athletic, Jason Lloyd. Quote, according to multiple players, those mistakes, talking about Deshaun Watson's mistakes in Cleveland, weren't pointed out in film sessions, frustrating at least a few veterans who believe Stefanski wouldn't criticize Deshaun Watson in front of the team. When Jameis Winston replaced Watson after he tore his Achilles in October, players said Stefanski returned to pointing out the quarterback's mistakes in film sessions. So it's not just that Deshaun may have re-injured. Again, it's speculation at this point, but there is a rumor out there about how Deshaun Watson re-injured himself because he may or may not have been not wearing the boot that he's supposed to be wearing for the Achilles injury, and there's something to do with a TikTok dance in there.
Is this why they're banning TikTok?
No. By the way, TikTok going away. That was officially reported by Reuters this morning. So,
which I'm personally thrilled about.
Why do you care? You were never on it.
Exactly. It's just one less thing. I don't have to. People don't have to tell me you got to get on TikTok.
Who's telling you that you got to get on TikTok? Other than Bert makes a bunch of references that you don't understand.
Bert is constantly sending TikToks.
Anyway, Deshaun Watson re-injuring himself. The details around how he re-injured himself are speculative at this point, but if it was, in fact, in the act of a TikTok act, tough scene.
Yeah, but we don't know that.
We don't know that.
What do you think? I think it should be Henry. Deontay Johnson stuff is it's just mind-boggling.
It's really bad.
I think Henry should win.
I agree. Because we don't have fact-based reporting on the Deshaun thing, because if Deshaun did re-injure himself doing a TikTok dance, then that would be grounds to give it to Mike. But I would agree. Henry, congratulations. He's going to Bonnaroo, 2 4-day passes, a camping pass, all the good stuff. It's not the last time we're going to give away Bonnaroo stuff leading up to this year's event in the summer of 2025. We'll also be there. Well, I don't know if all of us will be there. I guess we haven't really worked through the logistics of that. I'm probably going to go. Should be a good time. So enjoy that and keep listening to the show. We'll tell you how you can win or get more opportunities to win the Bonnaroo prize pack, because we have several more of them to give away. So as we pivot, we should probably pivot to talking about the local professional football team, because we opened the show with that, or we're supposed to, and then we never got to it. Titans general manager search. How attractive is this job? What are the pros and cons of the Titans GM job as we see it at this point in time? Most attractive part of the Titans general manager job is?
It's a general manager job, one of 32, right? The cliche.
No, put that to the side.
And but it's a factor. And the obvious things. The number 1 overall pick, right? The ability to have influence on a roster that is rebuilding, that has parts and pieces of a foundation in place, but the majority of that foundation still needs to be built out, and a roster that in particular needs cornerstone, game-changing, franchise-changing players. It's not necessarily a clean slate the way the Commanders roster was last year, but there is a lot to work with in terms of the draft pick and the money that they can spend this offseason.
Least attractive part of the Titans general manager job is?
You will not have final say over this roster.
I don't think that's the least attractive part. I think it's the owner. I almost think it gives you a little bit of cover to be the GM that doesn't have final say in this current structure, because the GM that didn't have final say in the previous structure with Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon wasn't the one whose head rolled. Now, also there was some subverting of authority by Vrabel and as a part of things en route to him being ousted, so it wasn't just as cut and dry as, we'll pick this one over that one. But I don't think that's the least attractive part of the job. It is not the most attractive part of that job for sure, but I almost think, if they're going to set it up Game of Thrones style, and obviously they would argue against that, and they believe that that is not true, but that's the way that it looks at this point in time, then you wouldn't be the first head to roll should things go badly, should things, let's just say they finish under 500. That may still be a good season for a team that won 3 games last year. But is it going to be enough to keep everybody safe? Unlikely, based on precedent. If they finish with a losing record, if they don't meaningfully improve in a terrible division, somebody's probably going. It looks like it's most likely by percentage chance. This is not based on reporting or anything like that, just based on percentage chance, you would think coach most likely, Callahan most likely. And by the way, we're still waiting on coaching staff changes, and I don't imagine that would happen until the GM search is kind of done and dusted and they get the opportunity to review basically an internal audit on what's going on with the coaching staff, what needs to stay and what doesn't. But I would think coach first, Brinker second, new GM third. So that you're the lowest man on the proverbial chopping block totem pole here may not make it the least attractive part of this job. I think that, do you trust the people running this organization to, in fact, stick with the phrase, patience over panic? You could not possibly. You could not possibly. No matter what assurances you're given. Because of the pattern of behavior. And the most attractive part of this is what you said. It's the number 1 overall pick. You have the best percentage chance of any of these teams to turn it around, to get the best possible talent in here. You don't have the most available cap space. I need to take a look at it, and it probably varies from over the cap to spot track, but they're probably top 5, top 6 in terms of available cap space by the time we actually get to the free agency part of things and we see what's actually available on the free agent market. Least attractive part is the trust element that you can have you can believe it if you want to, but you can't possibly really believe it until you see that they're going to give you some level of patience that they did not give the three-peat. I guess Robinson and Mike got patience. It's really Rand and Callahan that seem like they're on the most shaky ground here as far as the patience goes.
So you mean Brinker and Callahan?
Well, Carthon already out as a result of the lack of patience. Now Brinker.
So if you're a general manager candidate looking at this, then you're probably looking at that recent history. Okay, they have fired 2 general managers in the span of the last 2.5 years. What led to those general managers being fired? How could I avoid just being the third on that list? John Robinson.
Different scenarios.
Right. John Robinson, we understand the decline of the roster. And, I think saying, how could you fire a GM at 7-5 and at the top of the division is also kind of a flawed. I think it's a flawed barb to throw. Now, if you want to question the timing of firing a GM mid-season, and if that helps or hurts you, then, maybe there's some merit to that. But yes, they were 7-5 top of the division, but we knew the roster was in decline. And they were headed into that losing streak, probably regardless of what happened in the front office. Do you agree with that? Like, they were headed to a bad place because they could only do so much, and the roster just kept going downhill, right? So they let go of John Robinson. That was a results thing. You can't whiff on 3 straight drafts and keep your job. Right?
And it's not just like 3 straight first rounds, even though he did whiff on 3 straight first rounds. It's the accumulation of the drafts. His draft record was not like overwhelmingly great anyway. He just crushed 19. They collectively, as a staff, crushed 19.
Yeah. Anybody brought in cornerstone players before that?
Yeah, listen, he turned this thing around. Mike Vrabel inherited a playoff team that John Robinson built. It's not like John Robinson inherited a playoff team. This thing was godforsaken when John took over in 2016.
And then you look at Rand Carthon getting fired after 2 years. The organization came out and said the circumstances are different from when Carthon was brought in, which is true. And I understand the circumstances changed because the organization decided to fire Vrabel and the context changed within that front office structure. All fair, but that is true, right? Undeniably true. Those circumstances changed. And the situation Carthon was brought in to work in was not the situation that was. And
he was not hired to do the job that John Robinson did.
Right, exactly. And Rand Carthon said this on Ramon, Kayla, and Will the other day. If you look around the league at people in these positions losing their jobs, the wins aren't there. And the wins weren't there. 9 wins in 2 seasons. Now, the debate that we have is how much did Carthon actually have to do with that? Was he given enough time? And all fair questions. So,
was he given reasonable expectations about what his job actually was?
So if I'm a GM candidate, I'm looking at, John Robinson, the results just went into the gutter in terms of talent acquisition. And with Rand Carthon, the circumstances changed around him, and they didn't have the wins to boot. So, okay, that makes sense. They are coming into a structure that is, for better or worse, as clear-cut as it has been in quite some time.
Agreed.
Right? Like the alignment of who's the shot caller, the structure, the tier.
There's no forced marriage in this current construct.
Right. Chad Brinker is leading this search. So that to me softens the blow as a general manager who is wary. And I understand that you're wary of the situation you're walking into, but if you're going into a situation where a GM has just been fired, there's probably something tenuous going on.
Are you any more wary about the Titans job than you are about the Jets job? Is probably the way that you should look at it. And the answer to that is no, because both have questions about the ownership situation right now, the decision-making, the level of erraticism that comes with it. And those are typically things associated with losing teams. And whether or not that is cleared up or resolved simply because you start winning games is a different matter. Probably not, but it makes everything infinitely more tolerable. People are miserable at 3-14. That is not a fun place to work. I don't need to tell you that, but these are things that have to be considered by the 6 candidates that they brought back for second-round interviews and for the candidates that will have other options elsewhere because they have put together, to their credit, listen, to their credit, because I've been giving them a lot of grief here lately, and they deserve a lot of grief here lately. But the list of candidates was impressive. The execution of the search has been efficient to date. And if they wind up with, the top 1 or 2 option on the list of candidates that they have put together, I will feel much better about their process here. even though the process that got them to this point has been deeply, deeply flawed. Coming up next, we will get into the Titans' lead general manager candidate, or who it should be. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. So the Titans have conducted or continue to conduct, including interviews that will take place today, their general manager search. And my expectation would be, they get through the second round, they get together, they bounce ideas off one another, and by the end of the week, they know who they're going to make at least an offer to. Now, whether that offer is accepted or not could bog down the timeline slightly, but they've given themselves enough wiggle room here, I think, that they should be able to land a quality candidate. Now, who is a quality candidate? I don't want to sit here and read your resumes. Like, that's that kind of stuff to me is in one ear, out the other, even though there's some stuff of value here. And the thing that I will point out to you is who I think should be the lead candidate. And who I think should be the lead candidate, though this person is also going to have options, be it the Raiders or the Jets, sounds like he's a lead candidate for the Jets as well, is Mike Borgonzi. Mike Borgonzi is the assistant general manager to the Kansas City Chiefs. And what we know about Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker specifically is that they work together on constructing the Snead trade, which is of consequence here. So you have at least a baseline understanding of one another, of the two people and their football acumen, or they will have an understanding of their respective football acumen and have done at least one deal together that would allow some level of, God help me, collaboration moving forward. Brinker coming from the Packers, Borgonzi, who spent a good deal of time with the Chiefs. He's been there since 2009, been in his current role since 2021. They have essentially put together a dynasty that makes it a lot easier when you hit on Patrick Mahomes. And, my skepticism with he works for the Chiefs, hire him. Or he works for the Packers, hire him. Okay, but do you get all the things that the Chiefs have when that person comes over to you? Not necessarily. You would love for the transitive property to work that way in sports. It oftentimes does not. If Brian Callahan was capable of doing all the things that he did with Joe Burrow with the Tennessee Titans would not be 3-14. But we saw how difficult it was for Brian Callahan to navigate a situation without a top, Burrow top 4?
Quarterback in the league?
Yeah, no longer than 5, yeah?
No, oh God, no lower than 5.
Certainly not coming off this year.
No, I think you're talking about Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow.
Yeah. So let's just say top 4 for the sake of, moving on. You don't get all the things that person had in their previous role that have led them to tremendous success. And that person is not solely responsible for why that organization had tremendous success. But you try to put yourself in the best possible position to succeed. And the Chiefs have a really good structure. I like the familiarity. Again, I don't want to read you the whole resume, but the resume is of quality. And just touching base with people who are more informed on these things than I am, sounds like he's a person who's respected around the league. He would not be getting these opportunities if he wasn't.
Right. I mean, he's been director of football ops in Kansas City. He's been director of player personnel, and that's along with his assistant GM role. The thing about the Chiefs that's so impressive, how many players at value have they had significantly contribute since the moment Patrick Mahomes got a massive contract?
Oh, it's
so many.
I mean,
what was Isaiah Pacheco's salary when he, went crazy in the Super Bowl?
Pacheco, a 7th round pick?
7th round pick at running back, right? Rashee Rice.
And running backs, most teams can find value at running back, but Pacheco is a good example for sure.
But Trey Smith, there's examples all over the place.
Trey Smith, there's a 1,000,001 franchise cursing themselves, including the Tennessee Titans organization, for drafting Brady Damn Breeze 3 picks ahead of Trey Smith. Blood clots are a legitimate thing that you have to consider, but what I do not trust was the medical evaluation that saw a team also take Caleb Farley, and all right, we'll roll the dice here. Even though, to Farley's credit, he played a little bit in Carolina this year.
That Super Bowl 2 years ago against the Eagles, Chiefs played 8 rookies in that game, started 4. The impact that they got from guys on rookie contracts was impressive in that season. And then last year, getting to the Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes not even as the highlight of the biggest reason why they were there, right? That might sound insane, but that was the case for the Chiefs last year, especially in the regular season.
The thing that I would caution people against, because it's understandable why people do this. Hell, it's why Amy Adams Strunk did not choose 2 internal candidates for her last general manager hire. Don't be so caught up in the franchise that they're coming from. Yes, it matters. Yes, their level of success or failure there matters. But like people saw candidates on the Colts or coming from the Colts front office structure, the Bears and the Browns. Those are not historically successful franchises. The Colts have been historically successful, but it's been history since they've been successful. They haven't been recently successful.
John Robinson was director of player personnel for the Tampa Bay Bucks from 2013 to 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Remember how bad they were?
They were.
In 2014.
And by the way, who's still there? Jason Light. Like, these things ebb and flow, right? This is why the patience is important, because I would argue that the Bucks are one of the more successful franchises in the last, I know Brady helps and stuff like that, but they've been able to sustain after Tom Brady. You know how damn hard that is to continue to at least be a playoff caliber team post Brady? To get those kind of things right? So Cunningham from the Bears, is it Dodd or Dodds?
Dodds.
From the Indianapolis Colts, and obviously the Browns candidate is no longer in the mix. But like the Titans, I think would have been better off hiring Monty Ossenfort than they were hiring Rand Carthon. But they didn't want anybody associated with John Robinson at the time. And I get that. Don't get caught up in the optical stuff. Dial in on the candidates specifically, what you know specifically what they've done. Don't criticize them for things that may not be within their control. That's kind of the way that I approach these general manager things, even though you look at franchise. You want people from successful franchises. It's why people continue to get jobs for 15 years from the New England Patriots, even though those people were wildly unsuccessful. People want to be associated with success. But Borgonzi, it sounds like, fits the qualifications of what they outlined in Chad Brinker's statement on the team's website, while also coming from a highly successful organization in which he has served several roles. He would be my lead candidate.
He'd be probably multiple teams' lead candidate.
Which is the problem, because he's going to have options. Now, there's only 3 GM jobs to be had this year, and I don't know how close he is to getting the Raiders job or if he's even considered a lead candidate there. He's certainly considered a lead candidate for the Jets job.
I don't know that he has any pre-existing relationships with the Jets as they're currently constituted. I know he has one with Chad Brinker. So how much of a factor is that relationship going to be is unquantifiable, something we don't know.
Oh yeah, that is something that only the candidate can answer, right? What was your experience like? Because he may be thinking, the dopes that I shipped L'Jarius Sneed off to that didn't have to pay for, yeah, those are the people that I want to work for. I have no idea how he views the Titan structure, but he at least respects the position enough with the number 1 overall pick to do the virtual and then come back in for a second round interview.
And it's not the only dealing they've done with the Titans, obviously. DeAndre Hopkins as well.
Yeah. 615-737-1045 is the number. Maybe you don't have a lead general manager candidate. Maybe you're just content to see the names and let this all play out. These things are harder to determine than, for example, coaches, or at least from an external perspective, they're harder to determine than coaches are. But that would be my preferred candidate, just understanding where he is and how he's done things. How does Dion Sanders feel about the Tennessee Titans? He was asked a question about them holding the number 1 overall pick. You'll hear from Prime himself coming up next.
12 o'clock, good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. In college football news today, another quarterback has declared for the NFL draft. Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers made it official. He ends his college career going 21-5 as a starter in the last 2 seasons. The Tennessee Vols are finalizing a deal for Tim Banks to remain the defensive coordinator. According to Chris Lowe of ESPN, Banks led a unit that ranked top 10 in the country in total defense and scoring defense. Meanwhile, the Titans GM search continues. 6 candidates have been called back for second interviews. They are Mike Borgonzi of the Chiefs, John Eric Sullivan of the Packers, John Spytek of the Bucks, Terrence Gray of the Bills, Ed Dodds of the Colts, and Bears assistant GM Ian Cunningham. Tonight, the 6th-ranked Tennessee Vols are back home. They host number 15 Georgia for a 7 p.m. tip-off. Vol Network coverage on The Zone begins at 6:30. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour on this Wednesday. Thanks for hopping in, stopping by. How do you feel about Dion Sanders? How does Dion Sanders feel about Tennessee? These things matter when your team has the number 1 overall pick and when the son of Dion Sanders is one of the quarterbacks who will be in the upcoming NFL draft. And it's worth paying attention to every tweet, every interview, everything that comes directly from Dion. There's some ancillary stuff that you could probably put by the side, but people won't because he's interesting. And it's an interesting subject, right? You gotta whittle it down to what the man is saying himself at this point in time. And fortunately for us, he did a recent interview with Barstool Sports where he was asked directly about Tennessee having the number 1 overall pick. What's the name of the podcast, Jackson? Do you know off the top of your head? I know it's a Barstool property.
What's up?
That's my favorite Jackson response. My favorite Jackson response when there's a question on the air is, what's up? But now there is a lot going on back there, all right? Zach Lyons, get out of there. You're distracting him.
Play the Dion Sanders clip before I choke you.
What's up?
Well done. That's good. All right, let's hear from Play it. For real.
Now, Tennessee has the first pick of the draft.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
I love it. I don't, first of all, no state tax. New stadium going in. Beautiful city. I love it. I really do. I don't know what's going to transpire because right now is positioning time. Mm-hmm. You're going to see an article coming out that I don't like Shador, I don't like Travis, I don't like Cam, just so they'll fall right where they want them to fall.
Right.
So it's a lot of positioning going on, a strategic hating going on right now. But what I love is you got all 3 of those are like my boys, like they my babies, like they even Cam.
Right.
Yeah. They have the same trainer. Daryl trains both of them. So if you hating on Shador, that means you got to uplift Cam.
Right.
If you hating on Cam, that means you got to uplift Shador, or you got to bring somebody else in the fold, which you know better than that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I love the way all of this is transpiring because it still is going to be one of our kids.
Right.
And we're going to do the draft in Boulder, Colorado, in the gymnasium with a packed house in front of all the students.
I don't know if it's just because we've been listening to a lot more clips of other people doing interviews lately, but like the after everything that he says, which is fine.
Yes.
Yes.
And then did you see the Ari Myrov report that Dion, he had sources telling him they believe Dion would have been interested in the Titans head coaching job if the Titans had done a full reset, which would be a very easy conclusion to make, right? Sure. That Dion Sanders, with how much he talks about wanting to coach his sons, wanting the team that currently owns the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Also, I love no, Jackson, not when you do it. I didn't like that. I like how his sons are growing. When he's talking about his boys, his sons, like
it now includes Cam Ward.
Now that's Cam Ward.
Cam Ward. Either way, you're drafting one of Dion Sanders' kids.
Travis Hunter is a part of that.
I love that for him. He's gonna stake his claim on every player in the draft and call him all his children.
I want him to continue doing that. Like I want that Abdul Carter.
Just keep expanding the tent, baby.
Makes the list. Luther Burden maybe cracks that lineup.
Danny Stutzman, like a 3rd-round linebacker.
Suddenly,
no matter what race, creed, or religion, they're all Dion Sanders kids.
Every GM in the NFL is having to call Dion before making their selection.
Hey, you know what? I mean, why not? It's already a circus. Let's just crank it up a notch. So, Dion obviously reacted to the Titans firing Rand Carthon, and it was just one word in a tweet with an eyeball emoji. He said, wow, right? It's you could take that a million different ways. Titans fans scrambling on the internet. What's it mean? Is he mad at us? Is he excited? Is Rand his boy? Just it's the scene from the SpongeBob cartoon where people are, he doesn't know his name because the people in his head running SpongeBob have shredded the file that his name was, and they're just, everything's being lit on fire. Trash cans are being dumped out. What's it mean? It doesn't mean anything but wow. That the team with the number 1 overall pick fired its general manager and that somebody else will be primarily responsible for making said pick. That's all it means. Now, I understand it's easy to get caught up. And listen, we get caught up in stuff from time to time. The Dion stuff is easy to get caught up in. But the part of this about Dion and the way that he feels about Tennessee, what has he said about a single franchise publicly that's been derogatory yet?
Nothing.
Not a thing. So, Dion's smart, right? Whatever Dion wants to do publicly is one thing. However Dion Sanders conducts himself privately is entirely another. He's a showman. He was on television. I mean, he's a showman before he was on television. He's primetime, right? He is the definition of showmanship. So he understands what the media circuit is. He understands what he says has impact on the social media news cycle. I suppose those two things are conflated at this point in time. But for Dion, it's let's see where the chips fall. I mean, truly, if you're Dion Sanders, doesn't matter until you know what team's going to take your son. It's January the 15th. I don't know when that interview was taped. I assume it was some point this week or maybe at the end of last week that came out, again, courtesy of Barstool Sports, that audio. But I don't think it matters until a team calls Dion and be like, hey, we're thinking about taking Shedeur. How do you feel about that? And he can tell him how he feels about that. And it'll be a private conversation, and we'll all just sit here and wallow in it until such time as a pick is made or not made involving Shedeur Sanders or Travis Hunter or Shiloh Sanders, or it sounds like Cam Ward. Although I don't think the teams are going to be calling Dion to consult about Cam Ward, even though he's now trying to claim Cam Ward.
Benjamin on the F&M Bank chat said, what do these kids' actual dads think? Suddenly Dion's claiming every prospect. Wait a minute. That's my son.
You're listening to the interview and you're Cam Ward's father and you hear Dion Sanders call Cam Ward his baby. It's like, I mean, I guess, I don't know. Is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing? I don't have children, so I don't know. None of us are equipped to answer this question.
No. There's worse people to have in your corner, I guess.
No.
Much worse people.
I honestly think, and again, I would not pretend to speak for these kids' parents or anything like that, but having Prime back you is a good thing. Net positive, right? Even if you there's probably some pride about being like, oh, that's my son. Because you put time and effort and travel and resources and all these different things into getting these kids to the point that they're at, right? All the different financial responsibilities, there's, of course, you've seen many, many draft stories where parents are having to work multiple jobs to make sure that their kids can afford whatever it is that they need to do to pursue their professional sports dream. So many of them don't make it. Some of them do, and you get the retelling of these stories after the fact. So that's, of course, of consequence. But having Dion Sanders in your corner is not bad.
He knows how this stuff works, too. Like, Dion Sanders was the number 5 overall pick in his draft.
Yeah, he's seen the draft process on both sides. He's worked for NFL Network. He's been a drafted player. He's been a player who has seen other players coming into the league and experiencing all the highs and lows, more lows, frankly, than highs of what the draft process is. He can guide people through it with as much intellect and advice as anybody out there possibly could. He understands the spotlight as much as anybody possibly could. He has the deference of players and organizations and coaches across multiple levels of the sport because he is one of the most front-facing representatives of the sport of football. Yes or no, Dion Sanders?
100%.
I mean, he's not Goodell, right? He's not running a league, but he's his words have meaning.
He understands how the public perception side of things can affect what people think of a player. And that stuff, it trickles up, I guess would be the word, to NFL teams. It does. Like, the perception thing matters. So when you have ex-NFL prospect whose dad is suddenly chesty because his son is a big-time draft prospect, and his dad's talking about, I don't want my son to go play here, it negatively affects the kid, right? Like, it negatively affects how the general public views. Like, didn't Caleb Williams' dad have a bunch of stuff? Wasn't he coming out with a bunch of stuff?
About what percentage stake of ownership his son would want.
And, like, that doesn't help Caleb
or
Williams.
Larry Fitzgerald's dad. Like, there are always... who was the father ball? Not Lonzo, not LaMelo. LeVar. LeVar Ball. LeVar Ball, whose shoe company may have actively hurt his son Lonzo's career based on what was or was not built into the shoe for basketball players.
Yeah.
That's something that is now going on with the big baller brand stuff. So I think, again, speaking as someone who doesn't have children, I'm not equipped to speak on these things. But I assume that at the heart of most parents, they're trying to do what's in the best interest of their kids.
Let's hear from Tommy on this. All right, Jackson, you got to pass.
Why are you so intent on doing the calls when you can't do the calls?
The phone is right there. It's so inviting to hit the button.
He's trying to find more ways to control the show, and fortunately, the show continues to undermine him the way the show continues to undermine me.
But who's controlling these phones?
What do you want, Tommy?
Thanks, Buck. When the Jets took Aaron Rodgers, they gave him pretty much total control about who he wanted to come to New York. They were going to win the Super Bowl, but not many people thought about what's going to happen if things go wrong. And I think with Prime, it could be great. But if things don't go the way everybody thinks, then it could turn into an Aaron Rodgers disaster. And also, I want to know, what about these transfers that are coming to Colorado now? Do they have a right to back out now because they think Dion might be going to the NFL? Thanks. I'll hang up and listen.
Well, yeah, sure. They can jump ship.
The portal automatically, even if the window's closed, the portal automatically opens up for programs where a coach leaves, like it did with Alabama.
Michigan, Alabama, just because the portal window is closing for most people does not completely mean that it's closed for all time after the window closes.
And on that note, also for teams still in the college football playoff, so now just Ohio State and Notre Dame, once their season ends, players will have, I think, 5 days to enter the portal, even though the window technically closed a couple weeks ago.
LiAngelo, Ball have a hit song out? I haven't heard the song.
Does he? I don't know.
No, apparently that was I thought
what are we calling a hit song? I don't know.
I mean, you can't make it TikTok viral anymore because TikTok's going away apparently until such time as a U.S. company buys it. So, more of your phone calls coming up next, 615-737-1045. Also, what does Brian Callahan need, since we're talking about Dion and by extension Shador, what does Brian Callahan need out of the next Titans QB in 2025? I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. Fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, 615-737-1045. The number, get on in there. Dion Sanders told you how he feels about Tennessee publicly. You're welcome to voice your opinion on that clip, courtesy of Barstool Sports. Again, nothing detrimental. Says he loves it. Wonderful city. Beyond that, he started talking about the draft process more than he started talking about Tennessee. The thing that, the Callahan thing is interesting on a variety of different fronts, mostly because we don't really know where he stands. We understand that he needs to produce. He understands that he needs to produce. 3-14 is unacceptable. They have to be a substantially better, substantially improved football team. From a discipline standpoint, the penalties have to go down. It's not just about scheme and quarterback development and all these things, though those are, of course, important. But they were one of the most penalized teams in football this year. And they're not the Baltimore Ravens to make up for it with the best red zone offense in football. They had a couple of in-game situations that were questionable. They have had now that experience in their first year. They need to be more buttoned up on that kind of stuff. Quarterback development, obviously at the forefront. Production, obviously at the forefront. Wins are the most important thing in Tennessee. I don't know that Callahan is safe this year no matter what. I would probably argue against that. I would think that everything's just kind of on a... Once the season begins, depending on how the season goes, I think it's basically a week-to-week proposition once we get into it. And, he has the opportunity to improve his fortunes if they win and if they lose. And there's reasons that they lose that can directly be attributed to the coaching, then he's probably not in a good spot. He's coming into this year on the hot seat no matter what. The idea, though, that people would say, well, just wait till she fires Callahan and hire Dion to coach his kid. Among several reasons, why is Mike Vrabel not the coach of the Tennessee Titans anymore, Lucas?
They won 6 of their last 23 games with Mike Vrabel as the head coach.
In part.
I think that is kind of the baseline of it. I don't think any of the other stuff mattered if you were winning during that time.
Sure.
If he was 18-6 over the last 23, you think that things would have gone differently?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted control. She couldn't control him. So they fired him. The one thing that she could control was his job viability. You think you're going to have much say over Dion Sanders in a room with Dion Sanders? Now, that's a much different kind of sway that those two individuals bring into the room with how they conduct themselves, but it's most certainly their room, even if it's different in the way that they make it their room, no matter who they're talking to. Yeah? Dion Sanders as the Titans head coach, based on that specific parameter alone, would be difficult. 615-737-1045. Jump in if you want to. How about Chuck?
Hey, Buck. Hey, I know I missed dumbest thing in sports, so I'm going to give you a come on, man. This morning on First Take, one of the commentators said that if the New England Patriots sign T. Higgins in the offseason, Mike Vrabel will make them a playoff team next year. Come on, man. That's like a 7-game change because of T. Higgins. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow couldn't make the Bengals a playoff team last year. I just think it was kind of odd that they think that much of Vrabel after he, like you said, he went, 12-23 over the last 23 games, something like that?
It was like 13 and 21, I think, in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah. 6 and 18 down the stretch.
Yeah. So, it's tough. Thanks for the call, Chuck. No one player is going to change the fortunes of a franchise unless that one player is Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, right? We can safely say that. And even, Burrow being one of the guys playing the quarterback position at a higher level than Mahomes did last year wasn't able to do it. We've talked about this.
That's what we're saying with Pat Mahomes. He is one of many reasons why the Chiefs are in the place that they are.
Yeah. It is interesting. And because it's not just Vrabel, even though Vrabel's the most recent example, the amount of coverage that Derrick Henry and Mike Vrabel are getting post-Titans is pretty crazy. Now, they're going to two bigger markets and 2 more successful organizations than the Tennessee Titans. But, I have seen more Derrick Henry discourse this year than I feel like I have since the year that he hit 2K. I have seen more Mike Vrabel discourse this year than I have at any point since he won Coach of the Year.
I think it helps Derek, obviously, that he's in the same backfield as Lamar.
Sure.
And just those dynamic talents. And it's the best offense in the NFL on top of that, too. And what he's doing,
I know, it's ridiculous what he's done.
He's 1,900-yard rusher. It's crazy to think how close he was to being the first ever player to go or to have 2 career 2,000-yard seasons at the age of 31.
Well, to your point about, obviously, I think Mike Vrabel was a good football coach. But the extent of praise that this man is getting after finishing 13-21 across the last 2 seasons and having some issues with the place that formerly employed him has also been, it's been pretty hyperbolic around Mike, yeah?
Just around the league in terms of him being this coveted,
all of it.
Sure.
And by the way, who was the better coaching candidate this cycle? Last year was different when Belichick is out there. I know neither of them got jobs out there, but Jim Harbaugh is also out there. Like who's the most not controversial? I mean, is Dion as a talking point is more interesting than is Mike McCarthy going to coach the Bears? Yeah.
There's so many what ifs to the Vrabel era in Tennessee. What if Mike Vrabel doesn't inherit a Hall of Fame running back? What if the Titans don't swing for Ryan Tannehill, right? What then? If the Marcus Mariota experience kind of sputters and they don't have anything to turn to.
Yeah, but it's like the hypothetical. Like, I don't want to do the hypotheticals that way. You can do that anywhere.
You can do that anywhere.
Those things make me insane.
You can say, what if
it doesn't matter if he didn't or he did. He did.
If the Patriots didn't hit on Tom Brady. I see what you're saying. But let's see what happens.
Oh, yeah.
With New England.
This is a very different sample size. Who is a Hall of Fame player on a bona fide star on the New England Patriots roster today? Not a one.
Who even
you're going to Ramondre Stevenson?
Who led them in receiving last season? Or
I bet it was a tight end, if I had to guess.
I bet it was too. Hunter Henry probably.
I bet Hunter Henry led them in receiving.
He did. He had 674 yards. Then Demario Douglas was their lead receiver who plays receiver.
Demario Douglas.
And Titans legend Austin Hooper down there as well.
Did you see, because there's been maybe it's just because all this stuff's being spammed on my timeline from Patriots outlets at this point, but did you see that Mike Vrabel was asked a question about bringing A.J. Brown to New England?
Yeah, talked about the relationship they have.
That is either an incredible troll by the host to ask it or an incredible troll by Vrabel to answer it, because that would just Titans fans into a bit of it would be a short-term death spiral, but it would be an unpleasant feeling.
Quickly, before we talk about and hear from Brian Callahan and what he wants in a quarterback, Peter Schrager of NFL Network just tweeted, the Titans are running an efficient GM search. They did a rather quick first round of interviews. They now have 6 finalists for the second round. Solid names across the board.
That was 2 days ago.
This was yesterday.
Okay.
And he said, this was yesterday. I thought he just tweeted this today. But he did say he imagines an offer/solution within the next week.
Yeah.
So by the end of this week,
that's what we said.
We should fairly assume that there will be news?
No, but there will be an offer. Doesn't mean that the guy, whomever they offer it to, has to accept the offer, but that's the same thing that we said, an hour ago? 615-737-1045, the number. How about Jerry next? Hey, Jerry.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, you know what? I wish I entered the dumbest thing in sports earlier, because I would have won. And I won't tell you why. Everybody's talking about Dion Sanders may come to Tennessee. God, I hope he does. You know why? Because every sports center, everything across the country, everything would go and get attention to Tennessee. I don't care if we go 0-16. It does not matter. The thing of it is, we became just like say we did get a good coach and he went and made the playoffs first game. We go, oh God, we're saved, Well, that's happened before. I'm just saying we need more attention to Tennessee.
Thanks for the call, Jerry. That's 60 seconds on the clock.
Jerry wants the buzz.
As long as the Titans fan base exists, there will always be somebody out there that wants attention to be paid to the Titans. 0-16 is no way to go about it.
Also, Dion Sanders is not going to be the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. And we are in no way talking about that.
And not everybody has been talking about that. I think there's a few fringe people on the internet that have been talking about that. Let's not.
No, we've talked about Dion and his comments on the Titans, but because of his son.
His comments on the Titans, about the landing spot for Shedeur, not about coaching the Titans.
Yeah.
Here's what I do get some of it, though. They have been irrelevant league-wide this year. That's tough for fans to deal with, right, to an extent. And, we're here for you. What is it, 12 hours a day of live programming revolving around largely Tennessee Titans-related material? Got the YouTube show on primetime. We talk about it a lot there, too. There's a bunch of different places you can get Titans news locally, but I get it. The most effective way to make your franchise relevant is to win, not flashy hires, because they did that. Brian Callahan was a flashy hire, and he may end up being a good coach. I don't know. Its results were not great in 2024, but Ran Carthon, splashy signings, 3-14. Coach that coached Joe Burrow as his offensive coordinator, coming in here to, I really think that they also hurt themselves when they acted like they were going to revolutionize offensive football in Tennessee when the rest of the league's been doing this for 5 to 10 years and, you're just playing catch up, but it's revolutionary to you. That I think was, a misstep by the Titans organization, but that's relitigating that kind of stuff. Winning games is the best way to make yourself relevant. And then if you're relevant and they ignore you anyway, then you can, accuse them of not wanting to talk about the Titans or not caring about the Titans or whatever these other things are. But the reason the Titans were relevant for a period of time was they won. Now they are no longer relevant because they lose. The number 1 overall pick is enough to keep them relevant for a period of time. And then if they don't do anything with that, or if they don't accomplish what they need to accomplish with said draft, not just the number 1 overall pick, then nobody's going to care again because you didn't win football games. Winning, the results on the field, it's the only thing that actually matters, which has been my biggest criticism of them, is they did a lot of things that they thought mattered, and they didn't win football games, so it was for naught.
The quarterback matters.
Sure does.
Can we hear from Brian Callahan, Jackson, on what he wants out of his next quarterback?
I know there's a lot of, and truth be told, there's a lot of smart people out there that have a jump on this process ahead of me. I haven't spent much time scouting, but I will be pouring every ounce of that into that draft class and seeing what it looks like, what those players look like, what they provide, what their strengths and weaknesses are. The other part of it that's critically important is the person. How do they function? What's their leadership style? What's their mental capacity? What's their nervous system, if you will? How do they function in the game and as a player? Those things are really important, and those don't come until we get a chance to talk to guys and bring them in and go see pro days and all that. So this process is in its infancy. It is very, 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 very early. So to make any proclamations, I think for us at this point on whether a class is good or not, I think is very premature. And we got to do our due diligence on all of the players that'll be available to us. And again, the only benefit is there's nobody in front of us, so we get to pick who we like the best, or there's also a lot of other options that go in there as well. But very early on, and there'll be a lot more time to talk about those things as we move forward. So go ahead, Buck. I'll let you come back.
What skill set in that room are you looking to add that you might not otherwise have?
As far as
the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think we need, we need to turn the ball over less. That's a part of it. Got to take less sacks. That's also a part of it. We got to find a mix between the explosive play rate that we had, which was pretty good as the season went along. We got better there versus the completion part of it. We're still moving the offense. There's a leadership component to it as well. That's important, that you're trying to find a guy that can elevate the rest of the team as well. That's a huge part. Sometimes that's with the veteranness because they've played and they have the respect. Sometimes when you go, if it's a young player, they got to learn how to do that. But there's a lot of things about the quarterback position, the play that we got this year, that was good. But we need much more of it, and we need more consistency. And I think that's the most critical part is that sort of down to down, game to game consistency and execution, where we don't have the ebbs and flows and lulls and moments of really good execution, and then these moments where we sort of disappeared. And the quarterback plays a large role in a lot of those processes.
take less sacks is something that people are going to directly try and make a conversation about Shedeur, for example, because Shedeur does hold the ball a bit too long and behind a poor offensive line at Colorado. And his most recent sample size of that in a college football game was the BYU game, where he took, 2 particularly hideous sacks that off the top of my head, I don't know how many times total he was sacked by BYU. By the way, I know we talked about that after the day after that bowl game. What was the name of that bowl game? Which bowl game was that?
Oh, the Alamo Bowl.
Was it the Alamo Bowl?
Valero Alamo Bowl.
Either way, that was such a spectacularly sloppy game. It was fun, but it was not well played by either quarterback, particularly. But taking less sacks, turning the ball over less, all things that beyond keeping the offense in time and in rhythm, making good decisions, what anybody would want out of a quarterback. Don't read too much into that. I mean, it matters because that's me directly asking the coach, hey, what are you looking for that you don't already have? And we know what they have in Will Levis, and he knows what he has in Will Levis, and that's the antithesis of what the Will Levis experience was this year. But don't read too much into it based on any one given player, I guess is my point. Don't try to make it about Shedeur or, that answer makes it seem like he likes Cam Ward better than he likes Shedeur. He hasn't watched them yet, really. That at the time of that press conference, he has not really watched them yet.
Yeah. And the prevailing opinions, from people that understand Brian Callahan and what he values in terms of quarterback play in his offense, is that Shedeur would be a better fit, correct?
It would seem so.
Okay.
It would seem so.
Now, the Titans' biggest issue in terms of quarterback play was what? And maybe biggest issue in general in 2024?
Decisions that led to turnovers.
Turnovers, yeah. So, Will Levis committed 18 total turnovers in the NFL.
I wonder how many turnover-worthy plays he had, interceptable passes, because I bet it's easily in the 20s.
I don't have that, but he committed 18 turnovers in 12 games. 18 turnovers, tied with 2 other starting quarterbacks in the NFL for number 1. Who are those quarterbacks, by the way? Can you guess?
Tied for number 1?
2 other quarterbacks committed 18 turnovers in the 2024 season.
Baker?
Baker, yep.
Jameis didn't play enough.
No. The other one was not in the playoffs, but his team was on the verge of the playoffs and kind of had a bit of a collapse. He played terribly down the stretch. It's a name that we've brought up here. It's a name that is Kirk Cousins.
Oh.
He had 18 turnovers in 2024. Levis played the fewest.
18 is so awful.
It's a lot. Levis played the fewest games of those. So Levis had 18 turnovers in 12 games, which is an average of 1.5 turnovers per game. Cousins committed 1.3. Baker committed 1.05 per game, right? Now,
Baker had a turnover in that game, even whether you want to contribute it to the quarterback or the running back on that botched exchange. It directly helped them lose the game.
Baker also had a career best year in many other categories.
Yeah,
there was a lot of
excellent.
A lot of good to outweigh the bad. They won the division.
And it's crazy that Cousins had such a dramatic fall off from basically October to November.
Well, that's the thing. He started the season pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that Thursday night football game, the overtime win over Atlanta, was one of the games of the regular season.
Not over Atlanta, over Tampa.
Over Tampa, thank you. One of the games of the season in the NFL this past year. Kirk threw for 500 yards. He was phenomenal. And then, I don't know, just back half of the season, did him in, and next thing you know, Michael Penix Jr. is the present and future in Atlanta.
Come on down.
But point is, for Baker, there was so much good to outweigh the bad. So I'm curious, as they evaluate these 2 quarterbacks, because I understand Cam Ward makes a lot of turnover-worthy plays, and he probably got away with some. He only had 6 interceptions. That's a pretty good number. It's a pretty good number. But he has a lot of tendencies that can lead to turnovers. Is it such a slam dunk that, Shedeur Sanders would be the better fit, so that would probably be the pick if they went quarterback? Or is there a scenario where they love the talent of Cam Ward, and they say, we can coach the turnover tendency stuff.
It's
we can
the
coach
most
the ball
NFL
security.
thing in the world. The most NFL thing in the world is looking at a player and saying, even if they don't need quote unquote fixing, but saying, I can do something with that guy. Yeah. Andre Dillard got multiple jobs after the Eagles crashed out on him, or after he crashed out on the Eagles, because you look at Andre Dillard, you see it for a moment. Blaine used to talk about that all last year. You'd see him do the kind of things that you want him to do on a more consistent basis, but he'd do it for like 3 plays in a game. And that obviously is not enough, and then would undermine you as a left tackle for the rest of the game. Cam Ward is a good college quarterback. Shedeur Sanders was a good college quarterback. Cam Ward is the best college quarterback that is going to be available this year. Like, if all things were even. I think don't remove one player or the other from the conversation based on what you think you know. And even that's the approach that they have to take with it, right? As a scouting staff, as a coaching staff. Because like I said, the coaches do not watch these college football players until the season is done. They get caught up in the time that they have to after they work through, coaches meetings, players meetings, exit interviews, these kind of things. Do I need to meet with my owner? Am I in danger of losing my job? Okay, deep breath. Now we can watch college kids. And you get ready for the Senior Bowl, the All-Star Bowl games as best you can. You get caught up as quickly as you can. Obviously, your personnel departments will get you up to speed as quickly as they can. And then you make the determinations between now and April. I'm fascinated to see what they're going to do. I don't think that there's any one solution that they have to go with here. But I don't think that either player has a skill set that would preclude the Tennessee Titans from taking them. Like, I think Cam Ward is good enough to draft and play quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. Whether he starts out the gate or not is an entirely different conversation. I think Shedeur Sanders is good enough to be drafted by the Tennessee Titans. Again, where they draft these guys is a different conversation entirely too, but we can't answer that until we see what happens. Last call for phone calls. If you got them, 615-737-1045. The number, I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045, the number if you want to jump in there. Last call for phone calls if you got them. Let's go with Matt up next.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Yo.
Hey, the Titans just seem to be that type of team that just does enough to say that they've done something. Over the last couple of years, you've watched the positions that need to get filled don't get filled. It seems like you're replacing guys with what should be the better or equivalent version of themselves, and it's just not working out. I don't feel like Traylon Burks would start at MTSU, and I just feel they do just enough to say they did something. I mean, the kicker situation's still a thing. I don't believe in Will Levis. I'm sorry about that, but I just don't. And, it's something just really needs to shake, and I don't believe Dion coming is going to be that thing.
No, I agree. Also, do not slander Nick Folk.
You know what it is. Let's be real.
What do I know what it is? He's the most accurate. He's the most consistent kicker you've had in what, since Suck Up?
I'm just coming at it as somebody who's, I don't see the changes being made where they need to be made.
No, I understand what you're saying, but the kicker is not something that I would cite as a part of your argument.
Okay,
but I do appreciate the call.
There you go. Okay, I'll give it up that it ain't the kicker, but
thanks for
Will Levis,
I get it. Listen, I have questioned a great deal of their competency, okay? I do not believe them to have been competent in the last 3 years at a variety of different fronts. What I do not question is that they very badly want to win. They very badly want to matter. They very much care. For as sensitive as Titans fans are about the way that their team is viewed, nobody is more sensitive about the way that team is viewed than the people who are running that team, okay? They are hypersensitive about all of this right now. They want to win. Just because they haven't done a good job putting it together doesn't mean that they're just doing enough to get by. This is not like what's an ownership group in the NFL that has been accused of just kind of getting by? The Bengals pre-Joe Burrow had that narrative.
They defined that, yeah.
So this is not a Mike Brown Bengals situation where the owner's actual interest in the team that he owns is being questioned on a regular basis or willingness to invest to win things of consequence. Amy wants to win because Amy wants to be right. Chad Brinker wants to win because Chad Brinker wants to be right. Brian Callahan wants to win because Brian Callahan wants to be right. Will Levis wants to win because Will Levis wants to be right. But they haven't done a good job of putting these people together or enough good people together to get the job done. There are two different things between desire and competency. Just because they're incompetent does not mean that they lack desire. Louis is next.
Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good.
I think we need to draft Travis Hunter.
Okay.
We always go
number one
quarterback. I just think we need to draft the best player available.
Do you want him at number one, though, is what I'm asking?
Nah, maybe we trade and get him, but not number one. I don't see him number one, but I'm tired of going quarterbacks. We need the best player available in this draft.
Yeah, and I think that's still Travis Hunter, right? You paying any attention at all? What are you putting together?
Travis Hunter is the best player available.
What are you doing? You on Indeed.com? What's going on over there?
I'm trying to get back into my email.
Build your resume? So he is. He's
doing some light
He's
browsing.
fired off his resume for the Voice of the Titans job to so many people in the Titans organization that his email has actually locked him out.
Just crashed.
It said enough.
They said take a break.
Take a breather,
it's
bud.
Like on the gambling sites when you've been on there for too long.
I haven't had that experience. What's that like?
I haven't either, but I've had friends.
Are you sure?
I'm very sure.
Oh, we've all got it. Yeah, sure. It's about the friend that you have, not your gambling addiction.
This is driving me insane.
Oh, yeah. He's been working on this.
Of course it is, because you want that job so desperately to get you the hell out of here.
I've been trying to get into my email for hours.
He started working on this at 8:30 this morning. He's still not into his email.
I got a new phone, and it just...
Well, again, that's user error more than anything.
Everything in my life is user error.
If I had to guess. Well, while Lucas fires off resumes, I'll take Chad's phone call next. Hey, Chad.
Word to your mother, Buck. So let me ask you this one. What's the chances of the Titans? I think, you look at potentially what's going on in Dallas. So you want to, I'm sure this has been talked about.
you want to take advantage of that situation if Dion wants to get his son in there. What's the chances of the Titans pulling Micah Parsons from Dallas? Because you need when you make these deals, you need a player and a pick, because you can't guarantee the pick's not going to bust. So you want to get the surefire player. What's the chances of them getting Micah Parsons and more in that 11th pick? So if you just ask for basic, we want a player and the pick. So you're getting what, the pick 11, and you're getting
it's
Micah
12,
Parsons.
but yeah, I got you.
12, and then what's the chances going from 12 back up and maybe getting an Abdul Carter? So now you're talking about adding Abdul Carter and Micah Parsons to your defensive line. You've got a chance to be a playoff team with that move right there. And then I'm a Sam Darnold guy, so I'm putting all your pieces in your puzzles.
Yeah, we started the fade on when he said Sam Darnold guy. I'm good on that.
Well, you're just going to shoot down anybody that remotely suggests Sam Darnold? He's going to start for somebody next year.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
But I don't think you should be the one to pay him $40 million.
Yeah, that's your opinion. But so somebody calls, because you disagree with somebody saying they should draft Cam Ward with the top pick, you say, no, we have no time for those opinions.
Yes, I will do that.
No.
As long as I'm able.
Does not
as
work
long
that
as
way.
I'm able to tell Jackson in his ear, music.
It's such a random opinion that you've decided you just won't allow.
Yeah, I have a bunch of those. Why is this surprising to you? This is a pattern of behavior I've had my entire life. Okay. Micah Parsons is going to be a tough sell. Jerry loves Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is a star. Jerry is not in the business of giving up stars. Now, what I will say is that Micah Parsons is due a contract, and that if there was ever any leverage to get Micah Parsons out of Dallas, I would think it would be just number one, 412, and Micah Parsons. I don't think you're getting many sweeteners in a deal that includes an all-pro pass rusher, especially who is getting ready to enter the prime of his career, even if he is coming off some level of injury. And he is.
I mean, he's getting top of market money.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So you're going to have to, and then to trade back up, like you have so many needs. You can't, 2 players does not guarantee that you're making the playoffs because, again, injuries happen. You have to have quality depth. This team has neither. They don't have top-level star talent. They don't have depth at this point. You are in the process of building those 2 things back up because it has been a disaster for three years prior. You in your email?
I am in.
All right. Excellent.
I think.
We should just end the show there. There's no time for polls at this point. Oh, my God. All right. Lucas is are you in your email or not?
I'm in my email.
Okay. Well, hopefully you don't send more resumes to get you locked out of your email. He's so uncomfortable with the voice of the Titans jokes. We're going to have to start this campaign for him because otherwise he's just going to have no chance to get the job.
Campaign commercial next week?
Yeah, we'll come up with a campaign commercial for Lucas's against his will. In fact, I think it's funnier if we do it without him.
Look how chesty Buck is that he thinks he's the only chance I would have at anything.
No, the microphone in front of your face that you have in front of you for 3 hours a day, you dope, to publicly campaign for this job. I just happen to be here. See you tomorrow. We'll do it again at 10.